This episode of the Lutheran Cartographer is brought to you by the Ron Paul Homeschool Curriculum. If you're looking for a good curriculum, check it out at lutherancartographer.com/homeschool. The Lutheran Cartographer, episode 38. Welcome to the Lutheran Cartographer, the podcast where we explore what it's like to be Lutheran in different places. I'm your host, Nicholas Weber. Today we're going to Pensacola, Florida to talk to Pastor Nathan Ragazinskas of Resurrection Lutheran Church. Pastor Ragazinskas, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you for having me, Nicholas.
So tell us about where exactly we are in the country. Help orient us geographically. We're in Pensacola. Where exactly is that in Florida?
Okay, so when you think about Florida, it kind of looks like a tube sock. So we're at the top. We're actually considered, sometimes people in this area will call us LA or Lower Alabama because we're so far west as far as Florida is concerned. We're right on the border of Florida and Alabama. So yeah, a lot of times that's what we're sometimes considered.
Okay, so you might say Florida has a panhandle and you're in that handle then?
Yep, panhandle, panhandle of Florida. Yep.
Excellent. So give us your background and how you ended up in Pensacola.
All right, so I'm a graduate of Fort Wayne Seminary. I graduated there in 2011, and the year I was there, the call service happened, and that was my first call was to a church in Des Moines, Iowa, Our Savior Lutheran Church, and I served there for 7 years. On my vicarage, backing up a little bit, on my vicarage, I met my wife at Emmanuel Lutheran Church, which is downtown in Pensacola. And so my supervisor, funny story, my supervisor was actually the pastor of the church that I'm at here now in Lutheran Church of the Resurrection. So he became my supervisor. The pastor that was at Emmanuel, he took a call about 3 months of me being at the church there at Emmanuel. And once that happened, then his name was Pastor Rabatz, and he became my supervisor. So it's very interesting story. So 2 years ago, I was called to be the pastor here at Lutheran Church of the Resurrection, and my wife is from Pensacola, born and raised. So it was a good deal for us to be able to come to be close to her family. My mom and dad actually had moved from North Dakota down to here. So all of our family was in one place. So when we would visit, everybody was here. When we would travel, it was about 18 hours from Des Moines to here. So we'd drive back and forth or fly. And so, yeah, that's how I ended up here in Pensacola.
Excellent. So it sounds like you've been in North Dakota, Iowa, and Indiana previous to Florida.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. I was born and raised in North Dakota. Like I say, I went to Minot State University, just a small university in North Dakota. I received a psychology degree there, and then I went off to the seminary in 2007.
I see. Okay. Excellent. So help us understand, I mean, obviously weather-wise, North Dakota and Florida are vastly different places.
Yeah,
but
couldn't be any different.
Yeah. But what would you say are some of the differences or the contrasts, either for good or bad, between the places you've been before and where you are now?
Okay, so North Dakota and Indiana, when I went to Fort Wayne, it was a little more spread out. I felt like as far as down here, there's a lot more people in a more confined area. If you look at Pensacola, it's not really spread out that much. Even in Iowa, it was a little more, the town really didn't go up, it more went out. So that's basically a big difference as far as population is concerned. Back when Hurricane Katrina hit in New Orleans, a lot of the people that were in New Orleans were displaced over to Pensacola. So Pensacola's population grew from that. Even with Hurricane Harvey, when it hit Houston, there's been some people from the Houston area that have moved over, not as much as Katrina, obviously, but we see some of that influx when hurricanes hit. Hurricane Michael with Panama City. When our second daughter was born, we were in the hospital when Hurricane Michael was kind of coming in, and so there was a lot of people from Panama City there as well. So when hurricanes hit down here, there's a lot of movement, a lot of shuffling that happens in the areas. So yeah, Pensacola, again, it's kind of more condensed. There's some suburbs that you really can't see a difference between Pensacola moving to the next suburb. it's just kind of flows together that way. But yeah, that's probably the biggest difference as far as population is concerned.
Okay, good deal. So then I'd never really thought of people moving to a place in Florida as a result of a hurricane. Is Pensacola shielded from hurricanes because of its geographic orientation, or is it just the hurricanes didn't happen to hit you at that time?
Yeah, it just didn't happen to hit it this time. The last, from what I've been told, again, I've never experienced a hurricane, thankfully. My wife has. The last major hurricane to hit here that caused damage was Hurricane Ivan, and I believe that was in 2004, 2005. Was those 2 years? I think Hurricane Dennis came in 2005. So they had some destruction from that, and there was people displaced that moved away from here to other areas. But yeah, usually what happens is, they got to find a new place to settle, and thankfully for right now, we haven't had a major hurricane since about 2004, 2005 here.
That's really good. So now tell us, what are some of the best things about being in Pensacola?
All right, so in Pensacola, this is considered the cradle of naval aviation. And so down here, this is the home of the Blue Angels. So if you know the Blue Angels, you've seen them on TV, or if you've even witnessed them in person, this is where they reside. They do travel out west. They have a place out there that they stay, but this is where their base of operations is. So you see a lot of naval flying, a lot of planes flying over. You get to see a lot of jets, a lot of cool stuff like that. And then, of course, one of the biggest things for us down here is the white sand beaches. We have beautiful beaches, maybe not as beautiful as in Panama City. Their waters is a little more jade green, where we're a little less of that. There's times when it is that way. We have beautiful waters here. We kind of are near something called the Floribama line, where the water kind of comes out and it kind of churns it up, and it's a little bit darker green than that. But again, we have beautiful beaches, and that's one of the main tourist attractions to people down here. Fishing's great. Seafood's wonderful down here, that kind of stuff. Cooking down here is real good.
Good deal. So what are some of the challenges about being in Pensacola?
I would say as a pastor, some of the challenges are some of the theology that you get down here. I would say there's probably a very big predominant Baptist background, Methodist background. Unfortunately, there's also you kind of mentioned this when we talked earlier, but secular background is on the rise, I would say. That's some of the biggest contentions, but the wonderful thing about the LCMS is we can proclaim the gospel. A lot of Baptists are here, and they believe in Jesus, but they focus a lot on the law. What are you doing for Jesus? Have you accepted Jesus? So down here, there's a wonderful opportunity to be able to share the love of Christ with them and show them the true meaning of the cross and what that means for us in our journey of faith. So that's a challenge, but also a kind of a good thing. Obviously a good thing. Culture's different from what I'm used to in North Dakota. I don't know, by and large, if things have changed up north. It's been a while since I lived there, but everybody kind of knew everybody. It's kind of like Cheers. Everybody knew your name, kind of maybe good or bad, knew your business probably even before you did your business, your business, whatever it is you were involved in. But down here, it's maybe a little less of that. In our church, it's not that way. We're very family orientated, friendly. Everybody knows everybody, obviously, but the community itself, it sometimes can be hard. People are friendly, but it's not necessarily a community atmosphere, I guess is a good way to put it. I know I'm not painting it in a good light, but probably a little less of the country mindset, a little more of the city mindset.
That makes sense. So tell us a little bit more about that culture. Before we started talking on air, we were talking a little bit about how the Panhandle is different from other parts of Florida. How do you see the culture in the Panhandle against what people might be familiar with if they've gone to, say, Orlando or Miami?
Yeah, so in this area, I would say predominantly, again, my view of it, my view of how I see things, I would say that we're very conservative area, politically speaking. If you've ever watched an election map, usually this area is usually the red. You get down in that area, it's usually blue. So there's a different mindset when it comes to that. That also has to do with the fact that a lot of people from different areas of the country move to different parts of Florida. Panhandle, you see Minnesotans, North Dakotans, South Dakota, Midwesterners. There's to be honest with you, there's also in Pensacola, there's quite a few people from the Pittsburgh area, Pennsylvania, a lot of that you see because of the shipyards and stuff like that. They're used to kind of like the naval station is brings all kinds of different people here. So to me, there's a good melting pot. You're getting a lot of different ideas, a lot of different mindsets. But by and large, I would say that's probably the biggest difference. A little more conservative as opposed to the thinking out east of us. But again, out east of us, we have a place called Disney World, and there's a lot of fun things to do there. We like to go to Disney World. Disney World's fun, so that draws a lot of people as well. Florida's got a lot of things to offer as far as tourism is concerned, and it's especially down here in Pensacola. There's a lot of history. If you're into history, we have a place called Fort Pickens, which was a Civil War outpost. So we've got a lot of stuff going on. I'm not a huge history buff, but this area is full of history.
Good deal. So you just mentioned that a lot of people from the Midwest, North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota, end up in the Panhandle. Let's now switch and talk about what it's like to be Lutheran where you are. Does that Midwestern influence increase the number of Lutherans around there? Or was it like? What's the Lutheran experience like in the Panhandle and in Pensacola?
So if you run across the people that are from those areas, they know about Lutheranism. If you come across people that are predominantly Floridians, born and raised here, Lutheranism's kind of a foreign entity. Might not quite understand what that is, or have heard of it. We do have in Pensacola itself. We do have quite a few LCMS churches. There's an ELCA church. There's even a Wells church near us. As well. So there's some Lutheranism that's happening here, but again, it's not predominant in this area. We have some, like I say, a lot of Baptist background people in the area, Methodist. Catholics, I would say, are probably a little less in this area than what you might think. From when you go to other cities and stuff like that, I would say Catholicism is probably not one of the mainstream religions in the area, but Baptist, Southern Baptist kind of thing.
Okay, so then how does that affect how you do ministry, or does it affect how you do ministry? As you said, you're preaching the gospel, you're giving that good message to the people. How do you think it fits in differently in Florida than it did, say, in Iowa for you?
Yeah, I would say so. I think where I was at in Iowa, Lutheranism was more well known. The theology behind Lutheranism was more well known. Down here, you have to start with talking about the fact that we don't worship Martin Luther. He's not. He didn't create the church. It just so happens to be that there's no better name for us, Lutheran, because of the things that were uncovered in the Reformation. So, explaining a lot of that is good. So having a background in that, obviously, we have a rich history. So sharing that with the people in the area has been a real blessing. Where you didn't necessarily have to do that, maybe in some areas of the Midwest. I would also say, again, the theology. Being able to share the freeing nature of Christ's death and resurrection. The fact that through the Son we are free. Being able to share that with the people of this area has been a real blessing. And I think for them, whenever I've been able to have conversations about that with people, I think it's kind of like not to sound too cliche, but a light dawning upon them that it doesn't quite work the way you're being taught as far as, working your way into heaven, as opposed to, Christ earning heaven for you and giving that to you. So that's been, again, a big blessing. I wouldn't see it as a challenge as much as just kind of knowing the area, knowing the people, and knowing how you present the gospel to them and what they need to hear.
Absolutely, yeah, that makes sense. Let's take a moment for a word from our sponsor. At this time, a lot of parents and grandparents are considering keeping their children at home when the government schools open back up in the fall, and I would encourage you to do the same. If you're looking for a curriculum, I would recommend checking out the Ron Paul Homeschool Curriculum. This will teach your children well how to live in the left-hand kingdom with classes in business, natural sciences, as well as college prep, in addition to all the usual subjects that you would expect from any curriculum, such as mathematics and history. Best thing about this curriculum is that it is self-directed after the 3rd grade, so you don't have to pull your hair out trying to stay a step ahead of your children in the curriculum. If you're interested, I'd recommend checking it out at lutherancartographer.com/homeschool. That's lutherancartographer.com/homeschool. Let's get back to our guest. So let's now talk about what it's like to raise a family there in Pensacola.
Okay, so we're very blessed in this area to have a Lutheran school in the area. Our congregation has started a VPK program, and what that is a voluntary pre-kindergarten program. It's funded by the state. You can have it at your church, and so our church is working towards that. We had open, we had to close. We're right now with COVID, we're closed because parents kind of holding their kids out right now just to see what's going to happen. But anyway, in the area, there's a Lutheran school, and that's pre-K, which is preschool, or K4, 4-year-olds, all the way to 8th grade. We're blessed to have that in the area. My wife actually taught there for 9 years, and then so our firstborn is going there now. She went last year for VPK. She's going this year for kindergarten. Our second daughter, she will be going there as well when time comes. But that's been a huge blessing to be able to raise kids in this area. Again, people are super friendly. I believe it's safe. There's some areas, of course, they're not as safe, but by and large, where we live in a suburb called Cantonment, kind of in the country a little bit. That's been a very safe area to raise kids. So yeah, we feel very blessed.
That is really good. What do your parishioners generally do for high school, or what things do you think would be good options for high schoolers?
So right now, public school is the option. There is a Catholic high school in the area, and usually, from what I can tell, again, I've only been here a couple of years, but what I can tell is usually people will send their kids to Catholic. Our congregation here has been talking a lot about building a high school on our premises here. We have our grounds here. We have about 13 acres. So hopefully someday, that's kind of the goal we're trying to work up to. COVID's, of course, put a huge damper on a lot of that kind of building right now, because people are kind of, holding tight where they're at. But yeah, that's kind of what we're at right now. It'd be great to have a Lutheran high school in the area. Hopefully someday we're building towards that. That would be great. Like I say, but where we live in Cantonment, it's called Tate High School. That's where my wife went. That's her alma mater, and it's a really good school. It's actually booming right now.
Oh yeah.
In the area, they put a new call center for Navy Federal Credit Union, and they have a huge campus, and they have employed a lot of people. So that area, a little, I would say, a little north and east of here, from our church, has really grown. They put in a new elementary school up there. They're probably going to, I would assume, put in a new high school in there in the coming years. So, but I think by and large, from what I can tell, there's high schools in the area that are good. Some are bad. I think that's with any place. You have some better learning from some schools and maybe not so good in others. But yeah, by and large, where my daughters are going to go to school and stuff, it's a good area for kids, for sure.
That's really good. So let's take a moment to talk about something that's been, unprecedented, the whole response to the coronavirus. What has it been like for you in Florida, and where do you see things going forward?
Okay, so in our area, our governor, there was kind of a mask mandate, kind of a little bit. It's not very good, not a good explanation of it, but it was kind of loosely required in certain areas. Our police chief here in town even said that, if they mandate masks, we're not going to be pulling people over. We're not going to be giving people tickets and stuff like that if we don't see you wearing masks. So it's been kind of, I guess, a good way to look at it, maybe a little wishy-washy in terms of masks. It's not been so very, very strictly enforced. There was times when local restaurants and stuff like that were closed, of course, like everywhere else. The one place that, of course, never closed was Walmart. That was always open. Our church was unfortunately had to be closed for almost 3 months, which was a tragedy. So our kind of bouncing back from that, we're starting to see more people come back. But I would say by and large, we lost in attendance, not membership, but from attendance, we lost probably about 40 people on a Sunday from what we had before. We were usually hovering around 110, 115. We lost about 40 of those on a Sunday. Now we do live stream here at the church, so that was kind of our main medium to come to people for about those 3 months. That was the only way I was able to reach out to our members. And I did Bible studies like most pastors did online and stuff like that. But yeah, that's been the biggest thing is getting people to start, coming back to church and knowing that it's safe, that we're doing everything we can here. I would say by and large in this area, you see people that are very, very much involved in wanting to wear a mask. And then you also have the people that say, I'm not wearing a mask. Nobody's going to tell me to wear a mask, So it's I'd say probably a pretty good split as far as that's concerned.
Okay.
Yep.
So far as the business end of things, are most businesses open now, or is it still somewhat irregular?
Yeah. Most places are open. Some places have closed, permanently closed. Unfortunately, some of the mom and pop places that you like to go to and stuff like that, they suffered big losses, and because of that, they had to close. Some of the places we like to go, unfortunately, are closed. I don't know about permanently, but temporarily speaking, yeah. So that's been pretty hard in this area. Tourism's been very hard in this area because the travel bans and things like that. Our governor kind of went back and forth with the governor of New York. There was kind of a back and forth between them about if you come here and visit us, you're going to be quarantined, or if you're coming in New York said if you're coming from Florida, you're going to be quarantined. So there was a little bit of political stuff going on between states as far as that's concerned. It kind of got ugly there for a little bit, but by and large, we did see some people come from out of state for tourism, but again, it wasn't nearly as much as what we usually have this year.
That makes sense. All right, so now let's transition and talk about, for those people that do come, those tourists that do come, what sort of things would you recommend? Like if you were having a friend in town, what would you say? Oh, you got to go see this or go do this.
So there's a couple places in the area. First off, you got to go to the beach. You got to see the beach. If you get a chance to, be out on the beach, and the Blue Angels practice typically every day. So if you get a chance to go there, I unfortunately I don't know yet at this time. I probably should have looked it up for our interview, but there is a naval aviation museum in town here that's awesome. They have planes set up. They have some of the old Blue Angels that are kind of suspended above in the museum. That place is awesome. It's a great place to come if it's open, which I don't know that it is yet. That's a wonderful place to go. Food is always great down here. There's a number of places that are open that I would definitely take you to. There's an Irish pub in town here called McGuire's. That's great. That's probably one of the big things most people know when they know about Pensacola is a place called McGuire's. Like I say, there's still quite a bit of things that you can do if you were to come to this area. But there's going to be some things that you're going to, things you'd like to be able to do that just not able to do just yet.
Okay, that makes sense. So you mentioned earlier how good the seafood is. If you had to recommend one or two seafood places, where would you recommend people go?
Okay, so we have a place called Nick's Boathouse. It's near our baseball stadium. We have I think it's a AAA affiliate, triple or double affiliate For the Minnesota Twins here, it's called the Pensacola Blue Wahoos, and a wahoo's a fish, if you want to know what that is. It's not a person, it's a fish. And so, yeah, so we have the Blue Wahoos. Was a fun thing to do. There's Nick's Boathouse. I would recommend, like I said, McGuire's is a great place. They do have seafood there. There's also a seafood market called Joe Patty's that you can go to, and his sister actually has a place to eat at too. That's real close by. But honestly, if you go out for seafood, there's tons of good places in town. There was a place called Landry's. I don't remember if Landry's is still open. There's a place called Flounders down on the beach. That's good. Peg Leg Pete's is a good place to go eat. If places like that are always good places to go.
All right, fantastic. So now as we start closing out the podcast, I want to make sure to give you the opportunity to tell our listeners about anything that you would like to, whether it's places to follow you online, your church's website. What would you like to point our listeners to?
If you'd like to give a listen to our services, we are Lutheran Church of the Resurrection. You can Google us and take a look. You can also like us on Facebook. You find our website through that. My name again is Nathan Ragazinskas. You can find me on Facebook if you want to become friends. I'm a friend to everybody pretty much. So if you'd like to do that, I'd love to reach out to you, tell you a little more. Again, I've only been here for about 2 years, so I know a little bit about it. There's other people that know more. It's a great place. If you'd like to reach out, if you'd like to stay in touch, that'd be great. Yeah, like I say, just Google us, Lutheran Church of the Resurrection. We are on North Blue Angel. It's kind of a main thoroughfare for people traveling to the Warrington area. It's a suburb of the town. So yeah, we're here. We're Lutherans in this area, and we're happy to reach out to our brothers and sisters in Christ for sure.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for your time today. What are your parting thoughts for our listeners?
I just hope everybody's doing well. I know COVID's it's impacted us all differently. I also know that the tensions that we've seen with the issues of police and race have really rocked our country, and I hope we can communicate with one another about these things. That's a big thing that I really wish we could do a better job of, is communicate, not yell at one another, but communicate with one another and how we can help each other out, brothers and sisters in Christ, and even people in community reach out a hand. I'm from North Dakota. That's kind of what we did. That's what we're known for. So, that's what I'd like to see. And just know that looks can be deceiving. We're not out to get anybody. We're here to be there for people, and that's what we've tried to do throughout COVID and throughout the tension that we're seeing in this area. Not necessarily in this area, but just across our country.
Yeah. Thank you again. God's peace.
God's peace to you as well, brother. Take care.
Thanks for listening to the Lutheran Cartographer. For more about the things that we talked about today, check out the show notes page at lutherancartographer.com/38. I encourage you to subscribe to the show so you don't miss an episode. You can do that on iTunes or on Stitcher or on your favorite podcast app. And while you're there, please leave a rating and a review so that more people will see the show. If you're in the market for a homeschool curriculum, or your current curriculum just isn't working out well for you, I encourage you to check out the Ron Paul homeschool curriculum that we talked about earlier. That's at lutherancartographer.com/homeschool. Until next time, I'm Nicholas Weber. Thanks for listening. I'll talk to you soon.